Yes, yes, we're ready. Facts are facts, yes. Oh, man, you can't.
He's doing this. Hammer time.
You know where to find him and talk to him later. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's regional commission meeting. As you can tell, I have turned into Lori once again. She was, but she's actually, there's an event with the governor down in Franklin County, and that's where she is right now.
Pick the governor over.
I know. Now you all know. Sorry. Before we go to the roll call, we have Ms. Dawn Erdman representing the city of Roanoke that has requested to participate remotely in today's meeting of the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission under the commission's policy for electronic meeting participation, allowing for remote participation for emergency, personal, or medical matters, and a physical quorum is present. Ms. Erdman made the request for medical reasons. Unless there is an objection, I will consider the request approved for this and future meetings by unanimous consent. Any objections? Great.
Assuming there is a quorum present.
Yes, which we're about to find out. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to go around the room and have everybody do introductions. That way Jeremy can get the role and everybody will know who everybody else is. So I'm Peter Vollison, the vice chair.
Bill North, Roanoke County.
Dean Martin, Roanoke County.
James Griffith, Allegheny County.
Debbie Laudermilk, Town of Clifton Forge.
Chuck on Road, Town of Clifton Forge.
Ken McFadden, Allegheny County. Terry Momar, Roanoke City.
Brad Rose, kind of big.
Barbara Dirk, citizen representative for Roanoke.
Lee Osborne, Roanoke County.
D. King, Salem City. Anne Marie Green, City of Salem.
Woody Lips, alternate representative from Craig County.
Mr. Chair. Oh, sorry. We have. Excellent.
Chris Robertson, Regional Commission.
Maria Saxon.
Brian Hill, the Regional Commission.
Sarah Mueller with the Regional Commission. Bailey Medeiros with the Regional Commission.
Anna Botter with Regional Commission.
Curtis Jones, Regional Commission.
Justin Heron, Regional Commission. And Andrea Garland, Regional Commission.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. So we'll move on to the item number 3, which is the consent agenda. We've got 4 items on the consent agenda. The approval of our agenda today, the May RVARC minutes, financial reports ending in May 31st, and the audit engagement letter. Are there any changes or questions or concerns? All right. So for approval of the consent agenda, I need a motion.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Great, the consent agenda is passed. All right, so we'll move on to the chair's remarks. I want to remind the commissioners that the Blue Ridge Rising 2 State Summit is taking place from July 8th through 10th at the Hotel Roanoke. Blue Ridge Rising is the strategic plan recently adopted by the Blue Ridge Parkway Foundation to better support and capitalize upon the economic development opportunities generated by the Blue Ridge Parkway, the most visited national park in America. The 2 State Summit is an opportunity to join other local and regional leaders to discover new ideas, hear updates, and discuss next steps to the benefit of the 29 county Blue Ridge Rising region. Too many R's. The current strategic plan can be found at blueridgerising.com. please see Jeremy for registration information, which will also be distributed after the meeting. I also want to share that Chair Lori Smith has canceled the July meeting of the Regional Commission. So you all can breathe a sigh of relief and enjoy your vacations. Please use that time to enjoy your summer break. And then finally, I want to introduce two new members of the Regional Commission. That's Mr. Woody Lips, citizen alternate to County Administrator Dan Collins, that will be representing Craig County.
Thank you.
And Mr. Ken McFadden, who recently took on the county administrator role for Alleghany County, when we'll be replacing Mr. Reed Walters as their citizen representative. Let's give them a welcome. All right, and that ends my remarks, and I'll hand it over to our wonderful executive director, Jeremy Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick items. You have in your agenda packet today a staff report detailing the recent National Association of Development Organization board retreat that I attended in Providence. I serve on the NATO. It's not the NATO that everyone's hearing about now. I have clarified that any number of times. It's a D, not a T. But I have served on the NATO board representing the Eastern region, which corresponds to EDA's Philadelphia region for about 4 years now. And NATO is the national association that's focused on economic and community development and representing regional organizations like ours. So in EDA speak, we are what's called an EDD, Economic Development District, that, you know, we call about 5 different things depending on which federal agency you're talking to. But they represent organizations like ours in engaging with federal agencies that do investment in economic and community development. So we have an annual summer board retreat, and I want to let you know a couple of the things that we talked about in Providence a couple of weeks ago, since it is a very interesting time when you're thinking about federal agencies right now. So one of the top things, and many of you probably are already aware of this, the current skinny budget, it's called the skinny budget from the administration, is proposes the elimination of several federal agencies. A couple of those are ones that as a regional commission, tap into funding to, Economic Development Administration and the Southeast Crescent Regional Commission, which is a new regional commission. In our case, it supports primarily Roanoke City and Franklin County. Those are both up for elimination in the budget. The Appalachian Regional Commission is not up for elimination, but it's essentially being proposed to be phased out. So this would be maybe the last year that it receives funding under the proposed budget. Now, the budget is a policy document. There's a lot of work between here and there, and I think it's actually been since 1998 that Congress has passed an actual budget and not a continuing resolution. So it's a statement of policy. But I wanted to note that those agencies that support some of our core funding are proposed for elimination. NATO is doing a lot of work behind the scenes to talk about the value of these organizations, particularly EDA and ARC for our communities that make massive investments in infrastructure and job creation and community development and so forth. So they're doing a really good job behind the scenes of doing that. You probably won't hear much in front of the scenes, I guess, but there's a lot of activity there to try to make the case for the benefit of those groups. NATO has an innovation committee that they convened this last year to help organizations like ours and help talk to EDA about being creative with the type of activities that we can undertake under our planning grant. So we get, as the regional commission, about $70,000 from EDA every year under what's called a partnership planning program. And there are some constraints on what we can use that money for. And it's primarily economic development, primarily infrastructure, getting water, sewer out to things that result in job creation. The innovation committee is working on helping broaden EDA's scope to look at things like housing and resilience planning as fundamentals to economic development. And so they're doing some work that would give us more freedom to do things like housing studies under economic development or to do resiliency and climate kinds of work. Daycare, things that are not traditional economic development, but we could perhaps provide some research or white papers or planning or other convening assistance around. So that some of that we've already done. Some of our housing work in the past has fallen under EDA, but should this move forward, it would give us some more freedom to do additional kinds of activities on your behalf. There is some upside. Part of the discussion is any opportunity, any time of change is an opportunity. So some of the potential changes at the federal level would perhaps result in things like more money going to states in block grants or other kinds of funding mechanisms rather than being programmed through federal agencies. And in many cases, regional organizations like ours are actually fairly well positioned to ultimately deploy those funds. So as one example, big discussion happening around FEMA is moving FEMA out of the Department of Homeland Security, doing something else with it, but maybe moving a lot of its funding directly to states. And a lot of regional organizations are already doing regional coordination work around hazard preparation or response. So there's a chance that this could benefit us as a regional organization, bring more funds in to do things that actually coordinate with you as localities, maybe in a more successful way than you have had a relationship with a federal agency, for example. So NATO is looking at those, the board is looking at how can we make sure, as these policies are considered, that we position economic development agencies, regional agencies as being a solution rather than potentially being cut out of the answer to these questions. So that's a highlight. Your staff report goes into a little bit more detail. I'm happy to answer questions about it, but NATO is doing a really good job advocating on our behalf. They're remarkable. Well, it's a very small staff that does remarkable work. And I was very appreciative to help them through my board work, move some of their work along. So any questions about the NATO or anything I just talked about before? Thank you. So for this next time, I'm going to indulge a quick personal item, if you'll grant me a little moment to do this. I have to brag on my family. I've talked with a couple of you probably independently. My stepdaughter, Thea Branscombe, was initiated or accepted into the Naval Academy this past year. So today, actually, as of 9:45 this morning, she participated in her investiture ceremony with the Naval Academy. She's something company 23. I don't remember. She was very excited to get her assignment, which I think there's legends about who you're assigned to and how hard the work is going to be over the summer. But she's up there with her mom and her dad and siblings today, probably running. I think they probably have her running in the heat already. But I wanted to share from them because I'm very proud of Thea, the work that she's done. She's worked very hard for the past couple of years to join the Naval Academy. And since I can't be there with her today, I wanted to share it with you so we can maybe all have good feelings towards her and help her. She's basically in boot camp for the next 6 weeks, and she volunteered for this, which I don't understand, but it's not easy. She's joining a family that's done public service in a lot of different ways. And so very proud of her, and I hope you will join me in my pride of Thea Branscombe.
Okay, and Jeremy, my congratulations, but did say Navy, so she's not running like that.
At the risk of having started something, I invite Executive Director's remarks, Mr. Chair.
Thanks for that hostile witness. All right. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. So now we'll move on to item number 6, which is the 2025 to 2029 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And Mr. Brian Hill is going to update us on that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Thank you. I'm Destiny here. Today marks quite a few months of work between between staff and the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Committee and the SEDS Update Committee, of which we've got a few members here today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the SEDS and as Jeremy mentioned, the EDD, our Economic Development District designation, which many of you may remember that we were designated one in January 2017. The idea is that we have more opportunities to work with EDA, other federal agencies, focus for potential funding streams for projects from HUD, EPA, Appalachian Regional Commission, some of the agencies that we already work with. One of the footprint of the SEDS region is this region minus Franklin County and Rocky Mount, because they are joint members with the West Piedmont, so they are under their ED. So what is it said? Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. It's a required box checking document for EDA. It is, and we feel like it's more than that. There's, and we've taken a lot of time to develop goals and strategies for the region. It's a 5-year document. This is the first year of the 5-year document, and so it's 25 to 29. Annually, you will see us come back to you for updates, demographic, project list updates mainly. Reflects local economic development needs and priorities. And again, minor updates occur, but this was the rewrite, if you will. So we took a look at a lot of different things. We updated the demographics. We had a new strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis. The updated vision, goals, and strategies. Again, these were the big ticket items that we worked with the SEDS Update Subcommittee at length, and I appreciate the time and effort that they gave me a little bit of ribbing and saying that, you know, we're keeping you here for longer than expected. But I said, no, this is exactly what we want. We want this to be informed from our localities in the region. Updated performance measures. Again, the project listing, there is a priority projects list. There is a vision projects list. And one thing that we did a little different this year, one of the things that we had hoped we would do that ends up being a phase 2 to the project, to the SEDS development, is a project prioritization process. But we felt like that, and again, I've mentioned this to you all in updates, that we wanted to give that a good amount of consideration. So the subcommittee and I met to discuss what, not necessarily what specific projects need to be prioritized, but what categories, and we're going to look at those in just a second. Again, talking about industrial sites, transportation, tourism projects are typical what you can see in the project listing. Again, they come from local plans, opportunity zones, again, things that localities have as their priorities already, and that we want to put together as regional priorities. Again, funding sources like Appalachian Regional Commission, Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, and again, talking about this newly created priority projects categories list, and here we are. So we have again, the rationale behind this category list is that for the most part, these will translate to the majority of projects on the priority projects list. So any projects that might have to do with broadband, advanced manufacturing, workforce development, the airport, Amtrak, greenways, industrial site development, housing, homeownership, rental opportunities, biotech, life science clusters, support of agriculture in the region, and then wanted to kind of look at a gap analysis to develop regional quality of life amenities. So those are the big ticket items of the priority list, if you will. So as part of the as part of being an EDD, there is the 3-year economic development district funding, and that's mainly for planning. And so we're in the midst of a new cycle there. And so our work program, which we'll discuss in a little bit, has here are some of the projects that are in the that will appear in the work program that are under the EDA scope of work. So let's see. So we've got an air service task force, continued maintenance of the SADS document, a state of the workforce report that will be a collaboration between the Roanoke Workforce Development Board and RVARC, a new dashboard website for regional economic development, housing, health, and a variety of different other regional indicators, and then a gap analysis to identify needs and improvements along the Blue Way. So with any large plan of this magnitude, and notwithstanding the requirement from EDA, we had a 30-day public engagement period started on May 26th and ended yesterday. And I will tell you, albeit we received 14 responses, 9 of which had written comments. That is the greatest amount by far of comments we've received for any sets that I'm aware of. Obviously, room for improvement, but we have we had a one of our platforms, Social Pinpoint, we had a survey site where folks could take it. It was linked to our website along with the draft. And just as kind of a summary of some of the comments, we heard just sort of some overarching themes, just agree, a general agreement with the projects categories as presented. Preparation of the region for and construction of affordable housing opportunities, strengthening resilience in the regional economy, and the increase in direct flights at the Blacksburg Regional Airport. We obviously, this is not the first time in place we've heard that. Emphasis on making the region Virginia Blue Ridge a medical research hub, attracting younger workers to the region, and then a need for improved transportation infrastructure, just kind of generally. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that although you've got the draft in your packets, we did identify that there was a few things a couple things we needed to add to the document before we submit. And one of the things we did was create some new goals in the vision goals and strategy section. So in the project packets, the priority and the vision lists, we have yet to add those new strategies to and look at all those projects. So those will be added. All the new strategies will be added, and we'll sort through in the applicable projects that the new strategy will add those before we submit to EDA on June 30. And that, Mr. Chair, is the extent of things.
All right. Are there any questions by anybody here? Mr. Osborne.
Yeah, I mean, this is an awful lot to absorb. I know it's not the first time I've had a chance to look at some of it, but in looking at this project priority list that of this file here, it looks like some of these are completed projects. They just stay on the list, or are they not actually complete?
In terms of the
Well, it talks about
referencing completed projects, or
I'm looking primarily at the scheduled construction thing. I mean, each one has a project status, but just curious as to, I mean, all of these are ongoing projects, even though they might have had a construction date of 2023 or something.
right? And one of the one of the things that we do is contact the localities to get project updates, and if they are still in some sort of stage of development, they remain on there. For the most part, we've tried to have everything updated, and of course, I'm sure we could possibly comb through things and find things that were not, but that is just something that we'll be looking at for the next year's update. Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chair, Brian, maybe this is one you've overlooked. And certainly that's understandable, but construct Interstate 73. Well, that's been Commonwealth Transportation Board's taking that off the table. Now, you know, the 220 corridor and the brick initiative might be a better substitute. And I understand this is under the regional projects on page 72, I think. Anyway, you know, some of these could probably be cleaned up even after you vote on this today, going forward, because it's a
By other people, because that.
And you're referring to, Mr. Earth, you're referring to page 72, which is the project list itself.
It's deeper down in there, I guess, somewhere. I can't really get the number, but it's towards the end, the last list of projects.
If memory serves, and Mr. Ben, if you would mind weighing in on this if I'm wrong, the subcommittee and the committee felt that leaving 73 in the project list was for now perhaps not good.
Well, I'm usually mostly agreeable, but I would say that I'd be disagreeable because they have voted to rescind I-73 in Commonwealth of Virginia. And that was a state vote of the CTV. And what our efforts are in the legislative agenda that we're working on adopting later this year is 220 corridor. The exact language I'd have to reach in here and get the folder out, but I think we need to be in sync with the legislative agenda for the time being and not worry about I-73. Because I-73 never got a dime in 20 years, and it's not going to get any in the next 20 years, I'm afraid. And
Mr. North, can you tell me where to find that?
On the last page, page 72. Middle, construct Interstate 77.
well,
Under regional projects.
Well, certainly, not to in any way be argumentative, but certainly it is the commission's in authority to remove or change this document.
well, I'm just saying.
Anyway, let me see it, so. Absolutely. We can make that change.
You have enough aid legislative.
I served on the subcommittee of the drafting of this document, and while I don't specifically recall the conversation about I-73, I do recall discussion of the Highway 220 corridor.
Yeah.
And not wanting to supplant or eliminate it. So maybe we conflated 73 and 220. Possibly.
There's still signs to say.
Yeah.
Right, here's our legislative agenda. It reads support targeted capacity investments along the 220 corridor between Roanoke and North Carolina border to enhance the growth of freight and commuter transportation. You've checked with the Blue Ridge Innovation Corridor, and what was that latest today? You sent a note on this morning.
They have confirmed that language supports.
That language supports it. So with that said, now that's validated, I'd get rid of 73 and substitute 220 corridor between Roanoke and the North Carolina border.
When, just out of curiosity, when did the seat, because this was discussed at another meeting.
It was done over a year ago. I want to say January 24, perhaps,
I remember that.
but they voted to rescind the I-73 corridor. Initiative. Commonwealth Transportation Board did that. So I'm just.
I
Not
would
getting-
suggest- I
We have to
suggest-
take this change.
I would suggest that we modify the language to include the two take out I-73, put it to be corridor. We want to add some brick in there.
BRIC, the BRIC, acronym, yes, BRIC. Yes,
I think, for purposes of this document, if we focus on the project, I think it's more appropriate. And we'll talk about the legislative language at
can do
the
the
end of the
detail.
meeting, but I think that's the place to make references to potential funding partners or other advocates.
Right.
So, that would be my recommendation, would be just to focus on the 220 corridor language.
So. All I'm saying is you could even go so. Simply put, just change construct Interstate 73 and put improved. Route 220 from Roanoke to the North Carolina border, and that would be fine. This
Is that a
stuff,
motion to approve this with?
I'll make a motion. Did we have a motion on this already? Didn't someone?
No, we have a public hearing and a resolution. Okay.
Yeah, we gotta go through that.
Yeah. Is there any further discussion or questions? All right, then we'll move to the public hearing and I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody signed up to
I
speak?
do not believe we have anyone signed up to speak or anyone online.
All right, then I'll close the public hearing. And so then we need to consider a resolution to approve this. So I guess it would be amended.
Yeah, a motion to, so amend the I-81, certainly the I-73, excuse me, language that we just discussed.
So.
With the understanding that we will make project updates and we're about to go through a phase 2 prioritization process that will, I suspect, further clean this up, but certainly we can immediately amend the 73 language.
So this is where we can
This
also,
group doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah,
It's wrong.
yes, it is.
so we can amend, make a friendly amendment.
Quick note that the prioritization process will occur as part of the, as year 2 something.
Gotcha.
But, continuation of the creation of the five.
So we can make a friendly motion to amend page 72 under regional projects to change construct Interstate 73 to read, improve Route 220 from between Roanoke and the North Carolina state line. There's second one.
All right, all in favor, signify with aye. Any opposed? All right. And so now are we, we have to actually approve this, right? Or did
I think that's the a resolution as a.
I did. All right, then this is, the SEDS has been passed. Thank you. Brian. All right, moving on to item number 7, which is the approval of the fiscal year 26 RVARC budget on pages 138 and 39, and I will kick it over to Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Brian, would you mind bringing me the, I guess, the clicker, the formal? I would do this. Thank you. This thing is gold. Sure.
And my numbers on the packet that I've received aren't very legible. Can you give me an idea on what I'm looking for?
138, and then we can't read.
Once you get past
To get
the,
out of the economic development, then we can.
Once you get out of this thing.
And.
Oh, okay. That only, I thought there were different page numbers on.
yeah,
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. In your packet, you should see the proposed budget for FY 26 and a summary from Sherry Dean, our finance director, and I'm going to review a couple of highlights as we go into next year. Couple of notes on the revenue side for FY 26. Our per capita dues are remaining the same. The regional commission leverages a $1.20 per capita due for the commission. The TPO is 15 cents per capita for the TPO. Overall, our revenue from that source went down because the region slightly lost population, so we went down $825 for FY 26. But that's otherwise fairly flat. The past 2 years, including this year, we have received an additional $25,000 from the General Assembly, above the, I believe it's 60,000 base that they give us approximately. I initially understood that that was just for this last biennium budget. My understanding is now that that is indefinitely, so that's our new base from the General Assembly. So the additional 25,000 is reflected this year and going forward. Our funding from the Appalachian Regional Commission did drop this year. Last year, we received 78,000 from them. This year, our funding from the ARC went down to 60,000. I do want to note, we match ARC funding 50% with local funds. So actually a reduction in our ARC money means we actually save that matching money that stays in our regional budget to do other projects. So we don't have to obligate that to our ARC. It's still a net loss, but it changes the flexibility we have with that funding. There's a couple of large revenue sources are actually passed through for time limited grants like our regional housing grant. So we are seeing a overall reduction in revenue, but not necessarily our operating funds. What you're seeing is the winding down of some CDBG programs, the regional PTC housing development grant, which is the largest grant we've ever received in the history of the program of the commission. Our hazard mitigation funding, which will wrap up some years. So it's revenue that we expected to lose as those projects wound down. We currently, at the commission, maintain an approximately $1.1 million reserve. We had a little bit more till the elevator broke last year. We're required to maintain 600,000 of that under our bylaws as operating contingency. So we've got a very healthy reserve that allows us to undertake emergency building maintenance. On the expense side, the largest increase in expenses this year were our wages, salary, friends. Our other expense programs were largely flat when you look at training, other contracts, professional services. Last November, the executive committee allowed us to undertake a market adjustment to our salaries. As many of you are aware, we have had some turnover. We've been going through a lot of hiring, and we realized that part of the issue was we simply weren't competitive. So we did a market adjustment last year that brought our commission salaries more in line with the mid-range of our localities, not necessarily across the state, but closer to our local our partner planner salaries. So what you're seeing now is the increased impact of that change last November over last year, plus a 3% average 3% cost of living increase for staff. Contract costs are decreasing. It's the mirror image of the revenue side, which we're building the houses. We don't need as many contracts to actually get that work done. So those are going in line with those contract wind downs. One of the things that we did have that we thought we were going to undertake this year, I believe it was last year, we passed a formal sort of capital improvement program, or at least the closest thing that we've ever had to tackle deferred maintenance and some quality of life improvements. The elevator sort of shifted some of those things around, even though it was out there. One of the things that we were planning on undertaking this year were some improvements to the building. This is an old clinic. They didn't need windows in old clinics, but we are an office building and people like sunlight. So we're going to put in windows this year and do some more, add some additional office space. We're holding that right now, not because we don't want to do it, but with the federal picture, we're going to wait until the federal fiscal year starts in October and make sure we have a full understanding of what those revenue sources look like. If all of that works out like we hope, then we will probably come back with a modification to the budget to initiate those building improvements next spring. So we're forecasting that those are about 30 to 40, well, they were last year at least about $30,000 to $40,000, but we'll see what those look like. So we aren't reflecting those in the building yet, but we're still committed to making those improvements and trying to make the building a little less like a medical office building. Just a couple things thinking ahead, as I just mentioned, several of our program streams, Appalachian Regional Commission, EDA, Southeast Crescent, and SAMHSA all operate on federal fiscal year. So at the moment we're forecasting is that all those programs are going to do what they have done, or at least what we reasonably expect them to do starting in October. As we discussed, Congress is looking at the budget. There's chances that those might change as of October 1st. So we're making some assumptions, but we may come back to you if we learn more about how those budgets play out at the federal level. That said, on the MPO side, on our transportation side, our budget actually went up about $18,000 for our PL and FTA, and that funds about half the operations here at the Regional Commission. So that source of funding is a solid, core operating funds that are still going strong. And just in terms of what this all means for our kind of biggest financial risk, it's probably not an impact to the budget per se in terms of what revenue we get in, but most of these federal agencies have seen significant staffing cuts. So what we are watching for is cash flow as we look at reimbursements and contracts. Like ARC was 2 months late getting their contract. We were 6 months into a 12-month work program before we even got the contract for ARC. The dollars were fine when it happened, but it's slow. So we are watching that we may have to dip into those operating reserves for cash flow over the next year if those reimbursements stay slow. So far, every reimbursement we have put in for any of these federal programs we have been paid for under this current budget year though. So I just want to, that shouldn't really affect what we can do. It just may affect how fast we are able to do some things in the coming year. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point about the budget.
I got a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Department of Housing and Community Development's got 114,971 unchanged. Is that what you are referring to when you talk in the description of the budget that these funds are distributed by the Department of Housing and Community Development and they will remain unchanged as of this meeting? Are you saying that the additional 25,000 the state gives us is not in here yet because it's not July 1st and we haven't received it?
No, so the General Assembly funds are programmed through DHCD. So that includes, that DHCD allocation includes the additional 25,000.
It doesn't appear as a 25,000 year over year positive.
We had it last year.
Yeah, it's
They gave it
included.
before July 1st.
Yes.
Well, we had it for last year and we're doing it again
Oh,
this
yeah,
year.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's not, it would have gone down if they had, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, we thought this is more
they just
thinking.
renewed it each year 25, even though the ask was for 100.
Yeah, that's a whole separate. Yeah, the original ask was for
They
an
just-
additional 100,000
they-
over the buy-in.
They just gave us the same as they gave us in the previous fiscal year.
yes.
So they'd be 25 each year.
But that DHCD allocation is what we expect to be the new floor for
Okay.
General Assembly.
I thought maybe they were waiting for the amended budget to take effect July 1st. Hard to get a dollar out of Richmond. If you get one, you better run out of town right away.
Any other questions or discussion about the budget? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget. So Luke. There a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
We will need to do a roll call since this is a financial decision. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm just gonna go down my list here. Mr. McFadden,
Yes.
Mr. Griffith,
Yes.
Mr. Lips,
Yes.
Mr. D. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. North,
Yes.
Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Volleson.
Aye.
Is Marissa Erdman online? Did she make it online? Yeah, okay. Vice Mayor McGuire. Aye. Ms. Dirk,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Green,
Aye.
Mr. Holliday. Aye. Mr. King,
Ms. King.
Ms. King. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I did that before, didn't I?
I get called Dennis
There's-
all the time. so
That's
don't
must
worry
be,
about
my
it.
brain must be shortcutting. I apologize. If I do it a third time, you're allowed to fire me. Ms. Loudermilk,
Yes.
Mr. Unruh,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes, what's fine.
Thank you. The motion passed.
All right, motion passes.
I just want to make sure I'm not taking somebody
No.
else's vote away from the back on.
You can call her anything but judge.
All right, well, we'll move on to number 8, which is the approval of the FY 26 Regional Commission's work program. And Mr. Osborne.
Yes,
Will. let
I'll
you-
introduce and then turn it over.
Okay.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
As many of you are aware who've been here before, but maybe some newcomers, would not be obvious. The work program is the process by which, the commission decides, develops its, projects for the coming year. It does that by looking at work that already needs to be done related to transportation and other items, but, just making it clear, the transportation, the major part of the transportation has its own separate work program that's approved by. Yes, this is the work program for the regional commission, which will include some transportation projects. These are things that are appropriate to be done under this budget. And it operates, it does that by appointing a committee. I was honored to chair this committee. Also serving on this committee was D. King from Salem, Steve Sandy, Billy Martin. I assume Sandy's from Gary LaRue, but yes, and Chuck Unruh. And appreciate everybody's participation. We had 3 or 4 meetings. I don't remember. I know we had at least 3. And the process is first we ask localities, our constituents to submit any projects they would like to see included in the work program. And then, of course, most of the work is done by the staff in terms of looking at evaluating those projects, not so much in terms of whether whether they're good projects, but whether or not we can fit them into the overall work program. Because ultimately, this is a budgeting of our staff time and resources, and that's the last phase. So you've been presented with the completed work program. And rather than me trying to explain that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jeremy and let him do that.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Yeah, you have the draft final work program in your packet. As Mr. Osborne was saying, what's reflected in that document are a couple of things. So we do approve our transportation work, the MPO level, under a separate process, the Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP. That's approved by the TTC. But a lot of our projects are exercises in stacking funding. So if we want to get something done, how do we use part of this grant and part of this grant to do the whole thing? Some of those transportation projects may primarily use MPO funding, but may also require the use of ARC or EDA or some other funding. An example of the TED study, the Transportation Economic Development, that's primarily an MPO document, but it's also an EDA document. It's actually sort of a child document of the sets that you just heard about. So the work program includes those transportation projects that use funding from non-transportation programs. And that's primarily going to be EDA, but those projects will list the total where those funding sources come from. We do often include projects that are approved in the UPWP that the work program committee doesn't necessarily approve, maybe because they're really big projects or they tell a good story about what the staff here is doing. So we want you to see them so you get a full picture of the regional commission's work, but they're not necessarily projects that are part of the commission's work program. And sometimes that distinction between the MPO's work program and the commission's work program can be a little nuanced. And then it's everything else. So any other project that is funded by our EDA or ARC or regional funds, et cetera, the work, we submit them, we review them, and the work program committee provides feedback and guidance and ultimately recommends them. Well, the other thing that's also not directly listed here, but is assumed, is the work program accounts for about 80% of staff time. We try to program roughly 20% of staff time around professional development and what we call Gen Tech, general technical assistance. And that's so that we're not so programmed on projects that if you need help on something throughout the year, that we can't step in and do a grant, assist with grant writing or run some maps or do a research project. That's always something we're trying to get better at, to be able to have that space. So this doesn't program 100% of the commission staff time. We have that kind of additional opportunity built in there. To highlight a couple of the things that are in the work program this year, we did get additional technical assistance grant from DRPT, so we will be assisting Franklin County in a microtransit study. Microtransit is like a combination of Ubers and buses, so it's more of a technology-based solution to transit rather than running fixed route transit. So we've got some additional assistance to help them look at Ferrum, Rocky Mount, and Westlake, and those connections to the Roanoke Valley, and maybe come up with some service areas or some service models. As you heard Mr. Hill mention earlier, we are the moment leading the conversation of the Air Service Task Force that's looking at ways to improve investments in the Roanoke-Blacksburg Airport. Ultimately, we're looking at the runway extension, but there's a long time between here and now. So this is what are other terminal investments, other things that they need, or how can we help the airport connect better with business community and public sector folks? So we've got a group that's convening. You might remember we took a bunch of folks down to the Raleigh airport last year to learn how they do some things down there to promote the airport. So that falls under our EDA program. Allegheny Highlands Solid Waste Management Plan will be helping the Highlands update that plan this year. Completing the hazard mitigation plan that Amanda McGee on our staff is leading. I'm very excited to help Salem with the East Bottom Small Area Plan, the project around the new Valleydale development, to look at some land use and transportation planning around there. A request from Franklin County that we actually expanded up. One of the things that we look at in this process is if a locality asks for something, is there maybe a regional need for that same thing? Is this not a local project but a regional project? So Franklin County initially had asked us to do sort of a utilities, infrastructure, and inventory study, because that's probably something that will be useful throughout the region. So we have scaled that up to do a regional utility infrastructure study to look at what's there, maybe what's needed to support a variety of economic development opportunities. City of Roanoke request will also be regional, looking at best practices to develop a stormwater nutrient credit bank. And you also heard Mr. Hill mention the partnership with the Greater Workforce Development Board. I'll point out what's interesting a little bit about that is I serve on the Workforce Development Board, and they went through a strategic planning process this year. We were looking at some of our own EDA work program and we realized that their leadership was asking the same things that our folks were asking, the same data, the same solutions. So this is actually an opportunity to just join forces with them and come up with one product that actually meets both of our agencies' goals. So hopefully it means it'll be more efficient for everyone who works with the Workforce Board and with the Regional Commission. That's not a comprehensive list. What I wanted to do there was show you there's a lot of different kinds of projects that we consider and that make it to the work program. Some of those are straightforward plans, some of them are a little bit more creative, but we also try to make sure we're serving everybody. So we do a real conscious effort to look at all of our localities when we are looking at what projects make it or don't make it to the work program. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's all I wanted to add, Mr. Chair.
All right, any questions for the discussion?
I will say that the committee approved recommending this unanimously to take that as a vote.
Need a motion, I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Nope. All right, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, next we have number 9, which is the septic pump out program update, and that's Tara Mueller. Oh, gosh, never gonna get it. Thank you.
So thank you. As mentioned, my name is Tara Mueller. I am the Environment and Resiliency Planner here at the Regional Commission. I'm coming up on a year in August, and today I'm going to be talking about 2 of our existing pump out programs, one in Roanoke County and one in Botetourt. But first I wanted to kind of answer the question of why pump outs. kind of why are pump out programs a good fit for the regional commission? And I think the big thing that jumps out is that they are an environmental health and a human health issue. So it can be really dangerous if septic systems fall into disrepair and back up into homes and yards. And it can be really costly for the homeowner. But also, when those backups do happen, nutrients and bacteria flow into our waterways. So we found that it's a great way to meet people where they are, so that this is something that they have to do regardless. Your septic system should be pumped every 3 to 5 years and maintained or inspected every 1 to 3 years. And most folks don't actually know that, or it can be out of sight, out of mind. So that regular maintenance has to happen regardless. And this program is a way to provide that service for free. It's a free pump out. And it also opens the door for us to discuss the environmental impacts of that. So that's why I really like this program, is it's a way for folks to make an environmental difference for their watershed and their backyard with something that they have to do regardless. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit more about the programs that we have. So the first one is in Botetourt County, and this is our Chesapeake Bay watershed specific program. We have 11 of 70 pump outs completed, roughly $5,000 spent, and 33 applications. So I will say that those numbers aren't exactly where we would like to see them, but we're really hopeful that excited to see that some of those initial barriers of our program have resolved now. And especially since we have our fantastic new public engagement manager, Jessica, we are advertising and getting this program moving. Like I had mentioned, this is Chesapeake Bay specific. So this funding is a sub-agreement of our larger Chesapeake Bay PDC grant with DEQ. It is an IIJA program. This will be concluding as of right now, March of 2026. And really the main eligibility requirements for this program, you have to be a Botetourt County resident in the Chesapeake Bay area of Botetourt County, which does exclude the Glade Creek and Tinker Creek area, but for the most part, the whole, the better part of the county. And priority is given to applicants that are at or below 80% of the area median income. I was actually just in Richmond yesterday reporting out on this Botetourt County Septic Pump Out Program to DEQ and the other PDCs that are in the Chesapeake Bay. So we're super excited about this program. Moving to the Roanoke County Septic Education and Pump Out Program. This is our original pilot program. It's on year 3 and has been a very successful program. We are 95 of 96 pump outs completed, so about to hit our goal. Still taking applications though. We have some leftover funds that we're hoping to spend out. So like roughly 43,000 spent on pump outs, over 200 applications, and 5 educational workshops total. Since that's one of the pieces of pump outs that we really want to hit, is that education and awareness, so people know that this needs to happen. This is Virginia Environmental Endowment's Community Conservation Program. That's our funding. And so that one started in 2022 and is about to conclude in October of 2025. But spoiler alert, we have continued funding for this program for another 3 years, and it will also include Craig County. So the eligibility requirements for this one, you have to be a Roanoke County resident. And this one does have an income requirement of an annual income at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. I also, just quickly, I can touch on kind of how the program works. So it's completely voluntary. Folks apply online, an online application, and then we will work with them to get all the information that they need to get the pump out. So their septic system location and the depth, and then we connect them directly with Tidy Services, who is our pump out servicer. And then Tidy Services will bill us directly. So it's not a reimbursement program. It's not a cost share program. It is a free program service that we're able to provide. So I just wanted to kind of touch on the key to success here with this program. And I think that has been leveraging the existing partnerships that we have, those relationships, and also making some new ones. So just kind of hitting on some key points here. Our funders, Virginia Environmental Endowment for the Roanoke program, DEQ and EPA for the Botetourt program. Tidy Services, this is a photo right there in the middle of me with our Tidy Services rep. They always come to our educational workshops and provide us educational handouts. They've been a great partner for the past few years. They are the servicer for both programs. The counties, wanted to touch on Roanoke County and Botetourt County have been, crucial to this process. They know their residents best, so they have provided great insight to outreach efforts. The Roanoke County stormwater team has been very involved in this process. They have co-hosted our 5 workshops, and this is one of their staff members with an EnviroScape, which is a mock watershed. They'll bring maps to the workshops and kind of provide more insight to our waterways and the septic system itself. This is their stormwater guide, which I believe is sent to roughly 40,000 homes and is a great educational tool that we're featured in. I've got the Soil and Water Conservation District, Mount Castles, which serves Botetourt and Craig County, has also been very helpful. We were able to collaborate with them to provide pump outs to everybody in Botetourt County. I had mentioned that Botetourt was, our program is exclusive to the Chesapeake Bay watershed, but Mount Castle has a very similar residential septic program that was also able to include Tinker and Glade Creek. So we could kind of market that as a all-around program for Botetourt County. Up in the top, we've worked closely with RVTV, who's produced several great videos for us to promote and hit their channels, the radio, their TV channels, YouTube, things like that. They actually went out and took footage of the pump outs being done. VDH and the Water Authority have been really helpful as far as septic system expertise. I'm not a septic expert, but they have been able to provide great expertise when issues do arise, because that is possible that when you go in to do a pump out, there are repairs that or replacements that need to happen, or even hookups. So the Water Authority has been very helpful for us creating a database of knowing who's on septic, which is helpful to inform us of what programs, what areas we need to be hitting. So I just wanted to kind of lean into this, that the partnerships have really been crucial for this program, and we're super thankful for everybody's help. So I'm going to wrap up here. This is my final slide, kind of just giving you an idea of where we're going, what's next. So like I mentioned before, we have the Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Region Septic Pump Out Program, which is the continuation of that Roanoke County program, now to include Craig County. So over the next 3 years, we will provide at a minimum of 145 pump outs and 5 workshops. So we're excited about this program, which will kick off right about when our current existing Roanoke County program ends. I wanted to touch on the regional need. Due to our kind of rural nature of this area, it's most homes are on a septic system, an on-site septic system. So that's something that we keep in mind with this program. There's also a regional need for repairs, replacements, and sewer hookups. One thing that we found is it's almost a deterrence for our program that folks might be hesitant to get a pump out, because if they realize that there are repairs that need to be made, they might not be able to afford that. There's kind of an old wives' tale, but if your septic system isn't having an issue, don't pump it, because that's when there will be an issue. But that's just not the case, and it's important for us to recognize that, and that funding for those repairs and replacements is something that we need in the area, because it can be very costly, the same way with sewer hookups. And then finally, just IIJ and Virginia Environmental Endowment funds are not permanent. So we will be seeking ways to continue this program. That's what I have. I am happy to answer any questions. Super excited about this program, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. You can catch me after.
Any questions? Terry?
Thank you very much. I had one question. Have you gotten to know this world of septic systems and waste management? Do you know, or have you heard of any of our rural localities like Franklin or Craig? Do you still have any homes that we're aware of doing sewage straight piping? Just like wastewater going right out of it, yeah, into a ditch or anything?
I am not aware of, it doesn't jump out right away, but VDH does have several good studies for this area. I think VDH probably, the Department of Health would have the best information on that. That's something that did kind of come up in our meeting yesterday in Richmond, is we're talking about pump outs and alternative systems, but it would be nice to have a figure of who's still just straight pipe. That was a question that did come up, is what sort of database could we look into that gives us an indication of who is actually on an operating septic system? So not immediately, but certainly something that I can look into. Mhm.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 10, which is the Regional Commission Committee reports. And today we only have one committee that is reporting, and that's the Legislative Committee. Now we'll throw it over to the chair, Bill Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We, the legislative committee sent out, Jeremy did a note to ask for input this year. I think it was due June 5th. Legislative committee met and we fleshed through the accomplishments of last year and came up with a draft for this year that we're still waiting on some input on the airport, who wants us to help seek a grant. We need to know what the dollars are for the grant so we can advocate the General Assembly for support on airfield safety improvements and terminal capacity improvements. What's driving some of that is we, the state of Virginia, have a lower budget at 43.7 billion than does the state of North Carolina for their aviation airports. They have about $190 million. Secondly, secondary road funding legislation died last year when carried in the General Assembly by 2 delegates. Or rather, a senator and a delegate. I think it was Will Davis and Senator Stanley. So we're going to go back and revisit that to try to change the language in the code. We're going to also advocate for the 220 corridor. Basically, Roanoke Blacksburg Airport, got that right too, Roanoke Blacksburg Airport. Transportation, economic development, and energy infrastructure and data centers. And so we're going to meet again sometime, I think, before August, when we bring back a approved by the committee agenda for you all to discuss and vote on. And then after that, we're going to seek to set up meetings to the extent availability with the area delegates and senators, and we'll work as a team to meet with them. And someone on the committee will participate. We don't know who that is, depending on the dates and the people we meet with. But for example, Peter will probably meet with Senator Suderline, and you meet with the McNamara, for example, because he represents you. Or else, who else? Suderline. And you know, I would meet with Will Davis, and so forth. And then Senator Head. It's whoever we represents our areas, and that way we cover more territory. And Jeremy and I don't have to have up-team meetings. But anyhow, of course, Jeremy will be at most of them anyway. And some of them will be here, you know, those will invite them in here. And sometimes we'll have maybe 1 or 2, but we'll go through that and get it done as best we can. The challenges this year of the election for the General Assembly, not the senators. We probably won't be able to finish those until sometime in November or maybe early December, but we hope to try to get that going. And we did have some good success last year. A lot of things we advocated for or stood for did get approved. So there you go. And we welcome Hunter. He's on the this year's committee. In fact, let me tell you who's on the committee. Got that here someplace. Myself, Hunter Holliday, Brandon Nicely from Bonnetoc, Tammy Loudermilk, the town of Clifton Forge, Lori Smith, Franklin County, Peterbilt and Roanoke City. So that's your legislative committee. And we look forward to giving you a finished product to consider in August. Thanks.
And Mr. North, just, I will share, we've got up on the slides, the current draft language, we will send out a document for you to review, but just really quickly, this is the language about, the items are supporting the airport. You can see there the item about the increasing secondary road funding. The item about 220 that corresponds to the discussion earlier about I-73. These items we're looking at for economic development, so calling out in particular some of our regional industrial sites, continuing to support biomedical, life sciences research. This section is new this year, looking at energy infrastructure and data centers. So you can see some language about preserving local zoning authority and decision-making over energy generation, primarily, as you might imagine, solar farms and data center approval and siting, and then support of new transmission and an all of the above approach to energy generation to reduce Virginia's status as a net importer of energy. So that's the language that we're looking at now. Again, we'll get the draft out to you. We would expect to vote on this at the August commission meeting, which we've never had before, but we will be having an August commission meeting this year. So just speaking of spoiler alerts. But I wanted you to see that until we get the final the draft document out to everybody to review. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Holmes. And yes, that's right. We have an August meeting, so enjoy the July meeting off. So we'll move on to item number 11, which is other business. Is there any other business to be brought? Yes, I was gonna make a couple of comments about this. We have our baseball game social on August 20th.
Thank you, Salem.
Yes, thank you, Salem, for the box. Please go ahead and sign up and RSVP to that so that you can be there for the game. And this will be my first time going. I haven't gone before.
Oh.
So I'm excited to get my peanuts and Cracker Jacks. But do come. It's a good way to socialize and meet all of your fellow members here on the commission. I also wanted to flag that the July 4th is upon us. And the Virginia's 250th anniversary commission is going to be having fireworks and Freedom Festival here in Roanoke on July 3rd. That's going to be down at River's Edge North. So please come out and join us. I'm so grateful that we don't have to pay for the fireworks this year. They do. And the word on the street is that it's going to be a drone cloud. So it might be a little bit different than normal. So please come and join us in the city. That is the state putting on its show for the western part of the state. So we'd be happy to have y'all join us for that. Any other comments or other business? Go ahead.
I just wanted to make an announcement. In Clifton Forge, we're opening 2 new businesses. They're part of the same business. The Five Sides building is what it's called now. Five Sides is the former bank building that used to be the eyesore that is the middle of town, which is now Centerpiece. So on the 2nd, on July 2nd, we're doing the grand opening of the olive oil store, which is a gourmet olive oil and balsamic vinegar and just gourmet foods from all over the world. And also an international sweets shop. And so the grand opening for both of those is on the 2nd, and our hours are going to be such that you can come to it Monday through Saturday, starting on the 2nd. We'll be open from 10 to 8 and on Sundays from 10 to 6.
Just wanted to make the announcement of the Salem Fair, which starts July the 2nd. Of course, the largest fair in Southwest Virginia, and we too will have fireworks on July the 4th. So
Ours are on July 3rd.
Third, yeah.
okay, so
you've got 2 nights of beautiful fireworks.
right, we will. So come out and enjoy the fairs. It's no charge to get in, and bring the families.
Thank you, Hunt.
And Mr. Chair, I'm going to follow these 2 announcements about doing something fun with more work, unfortunately. Chair Smith would like me to remind you, as the strategic planning process moves forward, she is very focused on having an opportunity for the whole board to meet for a workshop, engaging with the consultants. And I know it's really hard to get people together over the summer, but we have these 3 dates that are up on the board, August 11th, 15th, and 20th. Currently identified as one of the possible dates. Those are the dates that do not correspond with, I'm pretty sure, any local government meeting that is open, available to our consultants. So we haven't picked one yet. I would love if, by a show of hands, if there's a date that works really well, or if any of these dates don't work for anybody, so I can give Lori some guidance.
The 20th doesn't work for me.
Okay.
Why don't we just do a show of hands on who can't make it on the 11th?
What time of day?
Yeah.
It would probably be a 2 hour. We don't have a time of day, but that's still flexible, but
Yeah,
it would be
city
about 2
We have
hours.
city council on the 11th, that Monday,
That's at
so as long as,
Okay,
so as long as it's in during the day.
Yeah.
We'll keep it good.
Okay,
Is the question, can you make it or can you not?
can you not make it on the 11th? Right. And possibly Salem if we don't do it in the morning, okay. All right, and for August 15th,
No,
that Mr. Morris.
Friday makeup meeting in Richmond.
And then on August 20th,
That's the day of the baseball game.
Ball game.
Yeah,
that was, yeah, that's.
That's at night.
I'll be out of town, so. No, I'll be out of town.
okay.
All right, anybody else that can't make any of those dates? All right, I'll leave it up to you to coordinate all that,
Thank you.
Jeremy. Thank you.
I appreciate you indulging that. Thank you.
All right.
That was easier than an email.
Yes. Get better response rate. Mr., go ahead.
Our regional commission staff member, Andrea Garland, gave us a presentation on electric, filling stations for cars, electric stations, or charging stations, and I've been working at the Berglund Center and Hotel Roanoke at conferences, and people always coming up to me and say, where can I charge my electric car? And I'm going, well, I got a report on that, but let me see. So I don't know, besides, I don't know how they find out except for Googling where to charge their electric cars. But if the Berglund Center would have a list of what that study showed, and then maybe Hotel Roanoke and some other places where electric cars are visiting now, I think that'd be great. And I've been hearing from people that, well, we want to go to work, but we can't get to the work sites. I'm saying, well, there's a bus that goes. They said, well, we can't get, so if in your discussions with manufacturers that want to, businesses that want to open, mainly manufacturing, if they would locate them in the appropriate zoning, but close to residential areas, so people can get to work.
Mr. Just a reminder that MetroFlex does have the ability to go to different work sites and doesn't have a fixed route. So that might be another option for those folks to take to get to work.
It would be nice if we could get more of a regional approach to MetroFlex.
So if you can survive all the other fireworks, town eventually will be having ours, traditionally on July 4th. What's really exciting though, that morning at 7:30 a.m., and I'm sure Lee will be there for this. We'll have a 4-on-4 run to sponsor the Boys and Girls Club. And this year, we're going to go have a new great greenway, so that'd be a great way to start the morning. I expect to see you there.
If we're bourbon tasting at 7 o'clock at night, I would do my best.
It'd be at the lake.
All right, any other comments?
I'd like to call everyone's attention to what's up there on the screen. Public meetings for the Craig Bonifant Scenic Trailer coming up. If you can't make one of the meetings, please feel free to check the VDOT website for the link, and you can submit written comments. This trail is very important to my community, and I think also Northern Botetourt County. So I encourage positive comments, but of course, you're welcome to say anything you want. Thank you.
Mr. McGuire?
Quick question, have you received any, are you receiving a noticeable amount of public pushback, or has that received any opposition?
Absolutely. We have a very well-organized but small group of people that utilize social media to bash the project and anyone associated with it, unmercifully. When you analyze the comments, and really listen to the core argument, outside of a few people where the state-owned corridor is very close to homes. Outside of those few people, the comments are generally not in my backyard. Craig County and Northern Botetourt County have both been forever and ever relatively isolated communities. And people move there because, you know, we want peace and quiet. We want to get away from the city. We don't want people around us. And this represents a profound change for those folks. We're working with VDOT to design mitigations for the places where the homes are close to the state property. How some of these houses ended up within 3 feet of the state property, given our zoning in Craig and Botetourt, but they have. I don't believe those situations rise to the level of stopping a community development project like this, but we are working to mitigate that with various means, engineering means.
I'd like to add that Woody has done an excellent job of PR. He has gone and talked to the people that have been the most vocal opponents of this project and just sat down and had conversation. And a lot of the times they'll say, well, I didn't realize that. So when I was out at Botetourt the other day at the town center, I saw a lot of defund the trail signs. And people were saying, oh, they're from long ago. They just haven't been taken down yet. So I am I'm hearing that it's much more, people understand now what it can bring to their real estate and to their community.
And I think maybe the most important thing is the property is already owned by the state. So this is not a taking or anything. And so the state gets to decide what to do, what the best use of the property.
To follow up on your question, I want to point this out because I think it's somewhat significant. The Derail the Trail movement became over the months leading up to the recent primary for the House of Delegates. That group became a political action campaign against our delegate, Terry Austin. They have tried to make the trail an issue and blame it on Delegate Austin. It's trying to cram a trail down the throats of the unwilling. Delegate Austin won that primary with 69 point something percent of the vote. So in my mind, and my spin is that the people have voted. The opposition group effectively put the trail on the ballot, and the people have voted.
Good point.
Yeah.
If you'll mention this and that, they have Greenway.
Well,
That's right. And there's a community meeting for the East Roanoke River Greenway. That's what we're talking about. Well, yeah, go ahead, Lee.
well, I guess as a follow-up, just so what is the hearings about? What is VDOT trying to get at these hearings? Is it?
It is particular. In this round of public hearings, they had informational meetings in September of 2023, which was about a year into the announcement of the project. And those were informational meetings and they received public comments. Over 80% of the comments received were positive towards the plan at that time. These public meetings are called design public hearings. They're open house style. but they're focused on a review of the design thus far. It's at least 50% complete to 75% complete. And it gives the public a chance to ask questions, to see display boards, and to talk to the designers in person to get the question answered. But what VDOT is actually looking for is comments on the design and suggestions for improvements of the design specifically.
So there are things like locations of parking areas, things like that. They're looking for.
Exactly, and I'd rather have a fence than trees next to my house. I'd rather have trees, or I want both. Or could you realign the trail, because the state owns at least 100 feet. And in some cases, 200 feet. So the trail doesn't necessarily have to go exactly where the railroad tracks were located. It can be shifted side to side, things like that. Amenities at the facilities. There's right now 3 trailhead parking areas planned. Bathrooms, maybe somebody want a bathroom there. Those types of comments, very specific comments on the design of the project.
Thank you. All right, and then again, the East Roanoke River Greenway Gap Feasibility Study. I think they gave you the TPO. I don't know if they did at this month. But there's a community meeting on July 9th and July 10th. July 9th is at the Charles Hill Community Center, and July 10th is at the Explore Park. And this is the about the eastern part of the Greenway. There's a gap between the Explore Park and where it ends, I think in Roanoke. And so how
Water treatment plant.
Oh, the water treatment plant, yes. So this is looking at how to connect those 2 sections together and hopefully get that eastern part done.
Yeah. And I'll just add a comment. This is the second one. The first one that had vetted out the options. And I think these are the top 3 options that came back with the most interest. And now they're gonna have this meeting to go over those 3. But what we heard today in the smart scale discussion was we really gotta think hard which projects we want to submit on the smart scale. And if this one is very costly, and one of the routes requires 2 bridges, one is over the railroad, good luck with that. The best way to get that one accomplished is the railroad builds a bridge and you give them tax credits in return, state of Virginia. So we can't do this without the state of Virginia, whether it's transportation, bill in the General Assembly, because the cost is prohibitive. I imagine with 2 bridges in West Salem is $30 million. We're not going to even get that in smart scale. And if we do submit it in smart scale, it might be 2 to 4 years before we do that. We're probably going to end up getting some legislative help just on this specific project. I know William Fralin's passionate about it, and as are many people, but greenways ain't cheap, folks. You come in there with a bridge, the price just went up. Now, we've looked at the cost in West Salem, but they go out to the park out there. Not West Salem, but West Roanoke County Greenway. You folks got your Greenway.
Green Hill Park or Green Hill?
Green Hill Park, it's very expensive. It's 30 million with 2 bridges. If you take 2 bridges out, I think it drops down to 10 to 12. I don't know. May not be able to get any funding in the smart scale with that, but we got to do some due diligence on both of them.
Mr. McGuire.
Is that the kind of thing that Mr. North is talking about, that in the future we could think about, or I'm thinking about our call we had this morning, but congressional directed spending requests, could we team up? Like, is there an opportunity to partner on asking our federal electeds for some money to help fill the gap on what it might cost to extend that greenway? Would that be something the city and county could work on together?
They have to.
Bob Goodlatte was responsible for the beginning on the Greenway.
Yeah, it may be, but they're going through budget reconciliations now. The whole world's sitting here hoping that what we are getting won't get cut. And by the way, the next 5-year transportation bill has to be developed. But yeah, maybe we can go there after this year or so. Maybe we can go back and look at that. At this point in time, Any dollars would help.
Yeah, let's keep what we got.
But that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, Senator Kane helped us at McAbee's Knob,
Right.
helped out a bunch. And,
I know what water bench.
yes,
Yes, and now we're, they're helping us out with the in-river park in
Right.
Roanoke. So
There you go.
let's keep that momentum going along the river.
Fine.
I should buy this book. And I'll have time. In the 2018 Greenway plan, there was a multi use trail that's adjacent to the Blue Ridge Parkway. It was in the Sam Abbott's original design and thought process that there would be a trail beside the parkway. And we have sections of it in Roanoke that have been called the horse trail, but now I'm encouraging it to be called the multi-use trail. So if anyone goes to Blue Ridge Parkway Rising, Blue Ridge Rising, suggest the multi-use trail along the parkway. That's going to be cheaper than expanding the roadway for pedestrians.
All right, and then, did you want to say anything about the meeting there? I didn't know why that came up.
Oh, no, just looking at reinforce that we will be having an August meeting, which is unusual, but we will be reviewing the legislative agenda, some strategic plan information, and tentatively City of Roanoke Mayor Joe Cobb is going to come talk about the recent homelessness task force initiative and put that in a regional context. I think, you know, what can we be doing as a region to help address that? We've gotten the last 2 years through the work program process requests for the regional commission to somehow participate in that, and we are very concerned about redundancy and not doing something that someone else is already doing. So this will probably kick off that conversation. And then in September, we have Joseph Mengedoff. I hope I got that name right, from the Richmond Federal Reserve will be speaking, doing a state of the economy update for the region. So it's just something to look forward to.
All right, and with that, I will take any motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second. All right, all in favor, signify with aye. We adjourn. Yeah.
Yeah, let me check real quick how I love to do that.
But that's Lori.